I'm 68 years old. My name is James, and I'm here to give you a warning. A warning that I wish someone had given me 5 years ago, before I made the biggest mistake of my life. I retired, not just from my job, but from my life. And I did it because I failed to answer 5 simple questions. 5 questions that have nothing to do with money, and everything to do with who you are. So please, before you sign those papers, before you have that retirement party, before you walk out that door for the last time, listen to my story. And don't retire until you can answer these 5 questions. For 40 years, I was James Peterson, chief engineer at a major aerospace firm. I built things. I solved problems. I led teams. My identity was forged in the crucible of deadlines, budgets, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. I wore my title like a suit of armor. It protected me. It defined me. It was me. And like so many men of my generation, I believed in the deal. The deal was simple. You work hard, you sacrifice, you provide for your family, and at the end of it all, you get your reward. The golden years, the endless vacation, freedom. I planned my retirement with the same meticulous precision I used to design a new engine. I had the finances down to the penny. The investments were solid. The house was paid off. My wife Sarah and I had a list of trips we wanted to take. I had a workshop full of tools I was finally going to use. I had a stack of books I was finally going to read. I had it all figured out, or so I thought. The first few months were a blur of blissful inactivity. We went to Italy. We visited the grandkids. I built a birdhouse. It was exactly like the brochures. But then, the novelty wore off. The trips ended. The grandkids went back to school. The birdhouse was finished. And I found myself staring into a vast, empty expanse of time. The silence in the house, once a welcome respite, became deafening. The freedom I had craved now felt like a prison. I was a man without a mission, a soldier without a war, a ship without a rudder. I became irritable, restless. I started following Sarah around the house, offering unsolicited advice on how to load the dishwasher, how to fold the laundry. I was trying to manage her life because I no longer had one of my own. The tension in our marriage, once a low hum, became a screeching alarm. One day, after a particularly bad argument, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I miss the man I married, the man who had a spark in his eye, the man who had a purpose. I don't know who this person is, but I don't like him very much." That was my rock bottom. I was 66 years old, and I had become a stranger to my own wife. I had become a ghost in my own home. I had done everything right, and yet everything was wrong. And it was in that moment of despair that I finally started asking the questions I should have asked 5 years earlier. The questions that could have saved me from 2 years of misery. The questions I am here to share with you today. So before you retire, you must answer these 5 questions. And you must answer them with brutal honesty. Question 1. Who are you without your job title? This is the most important question, and the one I failed most spectacularly. For 40 years, I was James Peterson, chief engineer. When people asked what I did, I had a ready answer. It gave me status, it gave me respect, it gave me an identity. When I retired, I became James Peterson retired, and it felt like I had died. I didn't know who I was without my title. I had spent so much time building my career that I had completely neglected to build a self. So I ask you, who are you? Not what you do for a living, not how much money you make, not what company you work for. Who are you? What are your values? What are your passions? What makes you laugh? What makes you cry? What do you believe in? If you can't answer these questions without mentioning your job, you are not ready to retire. You are walking into a void. You need to spend the next few years while you are still working, actively building an identity outside of your career. Join a club, take a class, volunteer. Find something that you are passionate about that has nothing to do with your work. Because when the work is gone, you need to have something left. Question 2. What is your purpose now? For most of our lives, our purpose is clear. We have to work. We have to provide for our families. We have to raise our children. These are noble and important purposes. But what happens when the children are grown and the work is done? What is your purpose then? If your only answer is to relax, or to travel, or to play golf, you are in for a rude awakening. Those are activities, not purposes. They can fill your time, but they cannot fill your soul. A purpose is something bigger than yourself. It's a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's a way to contribute to the world. It's a way to make a difference. For me, after my breakdown, I found a new purpose. I started mentoring young engineers at the local community college. I share my knowledge, my experience, my mistakes. I help them navigate the challenges of their careers. And in doing so, I have found a new sense of meaning and fulfillment. I am no longer just a retired engineer. I am a mentor. I am a teacher. I am a guide. And that is a purpose that will last for the rest of my life. So what is your purpose? It doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as volunteering at the local animal shelter, or teaching your grandchildren how to fish, or starting a community garden. But it has to be something. You cannot retire from purpose. You can only retire to a new one. Question 3. Who are your friends? This was another hard lesson for me. I thought I had a lot of friends. I had lunch with people every day. I went to happy hours. I played in the company golf tournament. But when I retired, the phone stopped ringing. The emails stopped coming. I realized that I didn't have friends. I had colleagues. And there is a big difference. Work friends are circumstantial. You are thrown together by a common employer. You talk about work. You complain about work. You celebrate work successes. But when the work is gone, the foundation of the friendship often crumbles. Real friends are the people who know you, the real you, outside of your job. They are the people you can talk to about your fears, your dreams, your struggles. They are the people who will be there for you when you are no longer a CEO or a doctor or an engineer. So, look at your life right now. Who are your real friends? Not your work friends, not your golf buddies, your real friends. If you can only count them on one hand, or if you can't count any at all, you have work to do. You need to start investing in real friendships now, before you retire. Join a book club, take a cooking class, join a hiking group. Find people who share your interests, not just your employer. Because when you are retired and you are feeling lost and alone, it will be your real friends who will pull you through. Question 4. How will you stay healthy? This is not just about physical health, although that is important. It's also about mental and emotional health. For many of us, work provides a structure that keeps us healthy. It forces us to get up at a certain time. It gives us a routine. It challenges our minds. It provides social interaction. When you retire, all of that is gone, and it can be a shock to the system. I let myself go in the first year of my retirement. I stopped exercising. I ate whatever I wanted. I watched too much television. I became a couch potato, and my physical and mental health suffered. I gained weight. I became lethargic. I felt a constant brain fog. It was only when Sarah dragged me to the doctor that I realized how much damage I had done. So you need a plan, a real plan. Not just a vague idea that you will go to the gym more. You need a schedule. You need a routine. You need to find activities that you enjoy that will keep you physically active, mentally stimulated, and socially engaged. Join a gym. Take up a new sport. Learn a new language. Join a chess club. Volunteer. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something. Your health in all its forms depends on it. Question 5. What is your legacy? This is the final and most profound question. When you are gone, what will you leave behind? What will people remember about you? For most of my life, I thought my legacy would be the engines I designed, the projects I led, the company I helped build. But when I retired, I realized that none of that really mattered. No one was going to put, "He was a great engineer," on my tombstone. Your legacy is not your career. It's the impact you have on the people around you. It's the love you share. It's the wisdom you impart. It's the lives you touch. It's the difference you make. And it's something you need to start thinking about long before you retire. For me, my legacy is no longer about the engines I built. It's about the young engineers I am mentoring. It's about the relationship I am rebuilding with my wife. It's about the time I am spending with my grandchildren, teaching them not just how to build things, but how to be good people. It's about the man I am becoming now that I am no longer just a job title. So what is your legacy? What is the story you want to be told about you when you are gone? If you don't know the answer to that question, you are not ready to retire. Because retirement is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your final chapter. And you have the power to make it the best one yet. These are the 5 questions. Who are you without your job title? What is your purpose now? Who are your friends? How will you stay healthy? And what is your legacy? They are not easy questions. They require deep thought and honest self-reflection. But I promise you, if you can answer them before you retire, you will not make the same mistake I did. You will not walk into a void. You will walk into a new and exciting chapter of your life, one filled with purpose, passion, and joy. And that is a retirement worth working for. Let me go deeper into each of these questions because understanding them intellectually is one thing, but feeling them in your bones is another. I want to give you the texture of my failure, the grit of my regret, so that you can truly grasp what is at stake. Let's revisit question 1. Who are you without your job title? For years, I wore my title of chief engineer like a second skin. It was my armor in social situations. At parties, when someone asked, "What do you do?" I had a powerful, concise answer. It was a conversation starter. It commanded a certain level of respect. It was a shortcut to validation. What I didn't realize was that I was using my job as a substitute for a personality. I didn't have to be interesting or funny or well-read because I was the engineer. My work was my identity, and I was proud of it. But the pride was a trap. It made me lazy. It stopped me from developing other parts of myself. When I retired, I went to a neighborhood barbecue. A new neighbor, a young guy in his 30s, asked me the dreaded question. "So, James, what do you do?" I opened my mouth to say I'm a chief engineer, but the words caught in my throat. It wasn't true anymore. So I said, "I'm retired." The young man smiled politely, said, "Oh, that's nice," and immediately turned to talk to someone else. In that moment, I felt like I had been erased. I was a non-entity, a blank space. I had nothing to say. I had no stories to tell that didn't involve a blueprint or a budget. I had no opinions on art or music or politics because I had been too busy working to form any. I was a one-dimensional man in a three-dimensional world, and it was terrifying. So when I say you need to build an identity outside of your work, I mean you need to become a person of substance, a person with interests and passions and opinions, a person who can hold a conversation about something other than their career, a person who is interesting, not because of what they do, but because of who they are. Start now. Join a book club, even if you haven't read a novel in 20 years. Take a pottery class, even if you think you have no artistic talent. Learn to play the guitar, even if you think you are too old. Do something, anything, that will force you to grow as a person, not just as a professional. Because one day the professional will be gone, and you need to make sure there is a person left behind. Now let's talk more about question 2. What is your purpose now? I thought my purpose in retirement was to enjoy the fruits of my labor, to relax, to travel, to do all the things I never had time for. But I quickly discovered that a life of pure leisure is a life without meaning. It's a hollow existence. It's a sugar high that quickly fades, leaving you empty and wanting more. Humans are not designed for a life of perpetual vacation. We are designed to strive, to create, to contribute. We are designed for purpose. My new purpose, mentoring young engineers, didn't just fall into my lap. I had to find it. And it was a painful process. I tried a lot of things first. I tried volunteering at the local hospital, but I found it depressing. I tried joining a political campaign, but I found it frustrating. I tried writing a memoir, but I found I had nothing to say. I was about to give up. I was about to resign myself to a life of quiet desperation. But then my nephew, who was struggling in his first year of engineering school, called me for help. And as I was explaining a difficult concept to him, I felt a spark, a flicker of the old fire. I felt useful again. I felt needed. I felt like I had something to offer. That one phone call led to another and another. Soon I was tutoring other students. Then the community college asked me to be a guest lecturer. And then they offered me a part-time position as a mentor. It's not a paid position. It's not a prestigious position. But it is a position of purpose. And it has given me a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It has given me a new identity. It has given me a new lease on life. So don't wait for your purpose to find you. You have to go out and find it. And it probably won't be what you expect. It will probably be something small, something you stumble upon by accident. But when you find it, you will know. It will be the thing that makes you feel alive again. It will be the thing that makes you feel like you matter. And that is a feeling that no amount of money can buy. Let's dig into question 3. Who are your friends? This is a tough one, especially for men of my generation. We were taught to be strong, to be self-reliant, to not show emotion. We were taught that our worth was measured by our ability to provide, not by our ability to connect. And so we built walls around ourselves. We kept our colleagues at arm's length. We didn't share our fears or our struggles. We didn't cultivate deep, meaningful friendships. We had work friends. We had golf buddies. We had drinking buddies. But we didn't have soul friends. I learned this the hard way. When I was going through my retirement crisis, I had no one to talk to. I couldn't talk to Sarah because she was part of the problem. I couldn't talk to my old colleagues because they were still in the game, and they wouldn't understand. I was an island, and I was sinking. It was only when I started mentoring that I began to build real friendships. I connected with the other mentors, a group of retired professionals from different fields. We started having coffee after our sessions. We started talking about our lives, our struggles, our fears. We started being vulnerable with each other. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a tribe. I had a group of men who understood me, who supported me, who had my back. And it was a revelation. So don't make the same mistake I did. Don't wait until you are retired to start building real friendships. Start now. And be intentional about it. Don't just look for people who are like you. Look for people who are different. People who will challenge you. People who will expand your horizons. And be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to share your true self. Because that is the only way to build the kind of friendships that will sustain you through the ups and downs of retirement and of life. Now for question 4. How will you stay healthy? I want to emphasize the mental and emotional health aspect of this question. We all know we should eat right and exercise, but how many of us have a plan for our mental and emotional well-being in retirement? I certainly didn't. I thought that once the stress of my job was gone, I would be happy and relaxed. But the opposite happened. The absence of structure, the lack of challenge, the social isolation. It was a perfect storm for anxiety and depression. My mind, which had been so active and engaged for 40 years, suddenly had nothing to do. It was like a high-performance engine that was suddenly turned off. It started to rust. It started to misfire. I found myself worrying about things I had never worried about before. My health, my finances, the state of the world. My mind was in a constant state of low-grade panic, and I didn't know how to turn it off. It was my therapist who helped me understand what was happening. She explained that my brain was like a muscle, and it needed to be exercised. She gave me a list of things to try: puzzles, Sudoku, learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, anything that would challenge my mind and create new neural pathways. I chose to learn Spanish, and it has been a game changer. It's hard, it's frustrating, but it's also incredibly rewarding. It has given my mind a new focus, a new challenge, a new purpose. And it has quieted the anxiety that was once so deafening. So don't neglect your mental and emotional health in retirement. It is just as important as your physical health, and it requires just as much attention and effort. Find ways to challenge your mind. Find ways to stay socially connected. Find ways to manage your stress. And don't be afraid to ask for help. There is no shame in seeing a therapist. In fact, it is one of the smartest and bravest things you can do for yourself. Finally, let's talk about question 5. What is your legacy? This is the question that ties all the others together. Because your legacy is not something you build in a day. It's something you build over a lifetime. It's the sum total of who you are, what you do, and how you treat people. And it's something you should be thinking about long before you retire. I used to think my legacy was the work I did, the engines I designed, the patents I held. But now I see that my real legacy is the people I have influenced, the young engineers I have mentored, the students I have inspired, the family I have loved. That is the legacy that will endure long after my engines have turned to rust. And here's the beautiful thing about legacy. It's never too late to start building it. Even if you have made mistakes, even if you have regrets, you can start today. You can start by being a better husband, a better father, a better friend. You can start by sharing your wisdom, your experience, your heart. You can start by making a difference, no matter how small, in the lives of others. So as you approach retirement, I urge you to think about your legacy. Not just your financial legacy, but your human legacy. What is the story you want to be told about you? What are the values you want to pass on? What is the impact you want to have on the world? And then start living that legacy. Every day, in every interaction. Because that is the only legacy that truly matters. I know this has been a lot to take in. And I know that these are not easy questions. But I also know that they are the most important questions you will ever answer. So please, do the work. Do the soul searching. Do the hard thinking. And don't retire until you have your answers. Your future self will thank you for it. And you will have a retirement that is not just long, but deep. Not just comfortable, but meaningful. Not just a vacation, but a vocation. And that is a legacy worth leaving. Let me offer one final thought. The world will tell you that retirement is an ending. It is the end of your career, the end of your productive years, the end of your relevance. Do not believe it. Retirement is not an ending. It is a transition. It is a shedding of an old skin. It is an opportunity to become the person you were always meant to be, before the world told you who you should be. It is a chance to live a life of purpose, on your own terms. But that transition will not happen by accident. It requires intention. It requires courage. And it requires that you answer these 5 questions. I spent 2 years in the wilderness of retirement before I found my way. 2 years of feeling lost and lonely and useless. 2 years of driving my wife crazy. 2 years of regret. I don't want that for you. I want you to step into retirement with your eyes wide open, with a clear sense of who you are and where you are going. I want you to have a retirement that is not just a long weekend, but a grand adventure. A retirement that is not just an epilogue, but a whole new book. So, do the work. Ask the hard questions. Find your answers. And then, and only then, retire. Not from life, but to life. To a life of purpose and passion and connection and joy. A life that is not just a reward for your past, but a testament to your future. A life that is not just about what you did, but about who you are. A life that is, in the truest sense of the word, a legacy.